At exactly 9:17 p.m. on a quiet Tuesday night, Daniel Moore's phone rang. He was standing outside his apartment building, keys in hand, grocery bag resting against his leg. CCTV footage would later show him pausing, glancing at the screen, and answering the call. No one could hear what was said, but witnesses nearby remembered his posture changing. His shoulders stiffened. His face, once relaxed, turned serious. He stopped moving altogether. For nearly 2 minutes, Daniel said nothing. Then he spoke a single sentence, so softly that even the microphone on the security camera couldn't catch it. He looked around, as if suddenly aware he was being watched. Then he nodded. Once. The call ended. Daniel placed his phone in his pocket, turned away from his apartment door, and walked into the darkness of the parking lot. That was the last time anyone ever saw him. Daniel was 34 years old. No criminal record. No known enemies. A systems analyst who lived a predictable life. He called his mother every Sunday. He paid his rent early. He was planning a small vacation the following month. Nothing in his life suggested danger. Yet after that phone call, he vanished without a trace. No messages. No bank activity. No advice. His car remained parked where he left it. His groceries spoiled inside the bag he never brought upstairs. Friends would later say the strangest part wasn't that Daniel disappeared, but that whoever called him seemed to know exactly where he was and exactly how to make him leave. To understand why Daniel's disappearance shook so many people, you had to understand who he was. Daniel Moore was not impulsive. He followed routines like clockwork. Every weekday morning at 6:30 a.m., he jogged the same route. At 8:45, he arrived at work. At 6 p.m., he returned home. Friends joked that if Daniel ever broke routine, something serious must have happened. That joke would later feel painfully real. On the morning after the phone call, Daniel didn't show up for work. His boss assumed he was sick until the next day passed and the next. Calls went straight to voicemail. Messages were unread. When his mother couldn't reach him by Sunday, panic set in. Police entered Daniel's apartment using a spare key. Inside, everything was normal to normal. His bed was neatly made. His laptop sat on the desk, still open to a work document. His passport was untouched. His wallet remained on the kitchen counter. It was as if Daniel had stepped out for a moment and never returned. Investigators quickly realized something disturbing. Daniel hadn't planned to go anywhere. No box, no withdrawals, no emails hinting at stress. The only unusual detail was his phone. The call log showed one incoming number at 9:17 p.m. It was unlisted. When police tried to trace it, they hit a wall. The number led to a prepaid phone, activated only days earlier, now permanently offline. Whoever made that call had vanished just as completely as Daniel. Detectives returned to the parking lot footage again and again, frame by frame, second by second. Daniel could be seen walking calmly until the call. After it ended, his body language changed. He didn't run. He didn't hesitate. He walked with purpose, as if following instructions already decided for him. The camera captured him reaching the far edge of the lot, where the lights faded and the image dissolved into grainy darkness. No vehicle was visible. No stragel. No one else appeared on screen. It was as if Daniel had stepped into nothing. Investigators expanded the search radius. Nearby traffic cameras, gas stations, ATMs. Nothing. Not a single confirmed sighting after that moment. It was as if the city swallowed him whole. Police dogs traced his scent to the edge of the parking lot, then lost it completely. That detail haunted the case. Scents don't simply vanish, unless someone planned for them to. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed Daniel knew the caller. Others believed he was lured. A few speculated something darker, that the call wasn't a request, but a warning. Detectives interviewed coworkers, neighbors, and distant relatives. Everyone said the same thing. Daniel had never mentioned fear, never hinted at secrets. Yet someone had reached him at precisely the right moment, when he was alone at night, and convinced him to walk away from everything. With no physical evidence, police focused on the phone call itself. Daniel's phone records revealed the call lasted 1 minute and 58 seconds. Experts analyzed his past calls to compare patterns. Daniel usually spoke quickly, confidently, but in the footage his mouth barely moved. It suggested he was listening more than talking. A forensic audio specialist concluded something chilling. Daniel's final spoken words, though inaudible, appear to be a response, not a question, as if he already understood the situation. Friends were asked an uncomfortable question. Was Daniel hiding something? Slowly, fragments emerged. A coworker remembered Daniel once receiving a call at work that left him shaken. A former classmate recalled Daniel abruptly cutting contact years earlier after getting mixed up with the wrong people. None of it was concrete, but it painted a picture of a man who may have crossed paths with something he never fully escaped. Investigators attempted to identify the phone's purchaser. The prepaid phone had been bought in cash from a convenience store with broken cameras. A perfect dead end. The voice on the line remained unknown, but its power was undeniable. In under 2 minutes, it erased a man from existence. As news of Daniel's disappearance spread, the quiet mystery suddenly exploded into noise. Tips flooded the police department day and night. Strangers called in, convinced they had seen him, at a bus terminal, near a roadside motel, walking through a crowded market in another city. Each report sparked renewed hope, especially for Daniel's family, who desperately believed he was still alive, still moving, still reachable. Detectives followed every lead, no matter how small. But one by one they fell apart. Surveillance footage from bus stations showed no sign of Daniel. Credit card records remained untouched. No hospital admissions matched his description. Shelters reported nothing. Each false sighting ended the same way, with disappointment, frustration, and another unanswered question added to the case file. Weeks passed, then months. Calls slowed. Interest faded. But the mystery refused to disappear. One lead, however, stood out. A man came forward claiming he had received a strange phone call on the same night Daniel vanished. When he answered, the caller said nothing. There was only breathing, slow and deliberate, before the line abruptly went dead. Investigators traced the number. It matched the unlisted prepaid phone that had called Daniel at 9:17 p.m. For the first time, the case felt alive again. But the momentum didn't last. The man had already discarded the phone. He couldn't remember his exact location when the call came in. There were no recordings, no witnesses, no proof. Once again, the trail vanished as suddenly as it appeared. Detectives began to suspect something unsettling. The call wasn't random. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Whoever made it didn't want a conversation. They wanted compliance. And they got it. Daniel didn't disappear because he was chased. He disappeared because he was summoned. And once that purpose was fulfilled, the voice on the line was never meant to be heard again. As months passed with no physical evidence, the investigation entered its most dangerous phase. The phase where facts grow thin and theories grow loud. Without answers, speculation filled the void. Some investigators quietly explored the idea that Daniel may have staged his own disappearance, but the evidence refused to support it. He left behind his passport, his savings, his car, and every personal connection he had ever valued. He didn't withdraw money. He didn't say goodbye. If Daniel had planned to vanish, he had done so in a way that defied logic. Other theories pointed outward. Organized crime, blackmail, a secret Daniel had kept buried for years. Detectives revisited his past in painful detail. Old jobs, former friendships, forgotten arguments. They searched for financial pressure, illegal activity, or hidden associations. Nothing surfaced. Daniel's life appeared ordinary, almost painfully so. And yet, ordinary people do not disappear after answering a single phone call. What unsettled investigators most was the precision of the event. The caller reached Daniel at the exact moment he was alone. Not earlier. Not later. The call didn't repeat. There were no follow-up messages, no threats, no demands. Just one call, perfectly timed, perfectly executed. It suggested planning, surveillance, and patience. Whoever was on the other end of the line didn't act in panic. They acted with certainty. Over time, the case slipped into silence. Leads dried up. Detectives were reassigned. Files gathered dust. But officially, the case was never closed. Daniel Moore was not declared dead. He remained missing, somewhere between absence and existence. Police would later admit that as long as the phone call remained unexplained, no theory could be dismissed. Because in that call lived the truth, and until it spoke again, the mystery would remain unfinished. For Daniel's family, the disappearance did not end when the investigation slowed. In many ways, that was when the real pain began. Unlike death, there was no moment of finality, no confirmation, no goodbye, no certainty. Just absence. Daniel's mother kept her phone close at all times, even while sleeping. Every unknown number felt like possibility. Every vibration sparked hope, followed almost immediately by disappointment. She replayed old voicemails just to hear his voice, clinging to the sound as proof that he had once been here. His apartment remained untouched. The jacket he wore most evenings still hung by the door. His favorite mug sat in the cupboard, unused. Family members disagreed over what to do. Some wanted to move on, others refused to change anything, afraid that letting go would somehow make his disappearance permanent. Holidays became quieter. Birthdays passed without celebration. Each year added another layer of uncertainty rather than closure. Friends struggled in different ways. Some convinced themselves Daniel had chosen to disappear, that he was somewhere safe and unreachable by design. Others feared the opposite, that something terrible had happened and the truth would never be known. Conversations about Daniel often ended in silence because no one knew how to finish the sentence. Missing persons exist in a painful space between hope and grief, and Daniel was now trapped there. What haunted his family most was the unanswered question they could never escape. If Daniel had answered that call a minute later, or not at all, would he still be here? That single moment replayed endlessly in their minds. One ring, one decision, and a lifetime of waiting that followed. For them, the mystery wasn't just unsolved. It was ongoing, lived every day in the quiet spaces where answers should have been. Years have passed since Daniel Moore answered his phone and walked into the dark, but the moment itself has never aged. Investigators can still tell you the exact time, 9:17 p.m. They can still describe his posture, the way he paused, the direction he walked. What they cannot tell you is why. The case remains open, suspended in a permanent state of uncertainty. No remains were found. No arrests were made. No explanation ever surfaced. Officially, Daniel is neither alive nor dead. He simply vanished. What makes this case so unsettling is not just the disappearance, but the simplicity of it. There was no dramatic chase. No recorded threat, no visible force, just a phone call. In less than 2 minutes, a normal evening became the dividing line between a life that existed and one that abruptly stopped. That call required no follow-up, no cleanup, no noise. Whoever made it understood something essential about control. That sometimes words are more powerful than weapons. Over the years, detectives have revisited the evidence, hoping that time might reveal what persistence could not. Technology advanced. Records were rechecked. Tips resharefished. Still, the call remains a blank space in the timeline. A missing sound that carries more weight than any image. Somewhere, a voice spoke words that changed everything. And somewhere, that voice remains unheard. Daniel's story forces a chilling question. How many lives are altered by moments no one else ever hears? How many decisions are shaped by conversations that leave no trace behind? Until the truth of that call is uncovered, Daniel's disappearance remains unfinished. Not closed, not resolved, just waiting. Because as long as one unanswered call exists in the record, the story does not end. It lingers, ringing silently through time, reminding us that some mysteries don't fade away. They simply wait for someone, somewhere, to finally pick up.